Hey guys, Level Zero here. And today I have a video on PC versus console. I hear this a lot, so I think it's time I just address it for once and for all, and then you guys can share it to your friends. And yeah, this is not a direct comparison. What should you buy? Should you buy? It doesn't really matter. It just matters what you have fun on. I have fun on both consoles, and to tell you the truth, friends to this day still play on PS3 just because of Black Ops 2. Black Ops 2 might be the most popular Call of Duty next to MW2 and COD 4. So, yeah, so let's just get into this. PC gaming is not the gaming savior of the gaming scene. It's really not. You may see that Counter-Strike is always number top on the Twitch chats and stuff like that, but and when it comes down to it, it really isn't. And I'm gonna give you guys the three little main reasons. One, there's arguably, depending on the game you play, more hackers on PC than console. This may be hard for some of you guys to grasp, but just bear with me for a second. Um, on consoles, it's a bit more tedious to hack because you have to mod your system and then get a USB connected to your computer, then connect it back to the. It's more tedious since the Windows platform is just one platform, and then you have these sub platforms for gaming such as Origin or Steam. It's really not hard to hack, but the security software is only getting better, and the more people hack, the more it gets better in terms of security tightening up. And I guess you can insert CS:GO hacker here. Um, yeah, so I think that's the first issue. The second issue is terrible, terrible, terrible. Um, day one launching. Like, oh my God, Ubisoft comes to mind. Dice, actually, I shouldn't say Dice. Call of Duty comes to mind. What was that other game that dropped that was completely broken? Was it? I think it was GTA 2. GTA, I think on consoles. GTA on consoles comes to mind, but I didn't play on a PC, so I don't really know. Actually, GTA doesn't even count because that came out a year after. But I'm gonna bring up GTA because had a terrible launch. So yeah, terrible launches. Ubisoft is a #1 culprit, with Battlefield coming in a close second for a close third after Call of Duty. But yeah, terrible launches. And the third one is just time. Not everyone has the time to build a PC, and maybe some people don't have enough time to warrant them to buy a PC, but maybe they have just enough time to get a console, because as soon as you get a console, it's ready out the box and you can just plug it into your TV and get going. With a PC, you have to either, assuming you're building your own PC, you have to like make sure this is what I do when I build my PC. I build the PC on top of the motherboard box just so I know everything works. Then you plug it into put it into the case, make sure it's working, make sure that there's no screws shorting out the motherboard, make sure that your motherboard works, make sure the heatsink is properly on, benchmark it, make sure it's stable, overclock it, that type of stuff, drivers, all types of tedious stuff. And then since nobody really buys the disc anymore on PC, you have to wait, like, depending on what your internet speed is, like depending on what your internet speed is, you might want to dedicate a day to just downloading all the games you want to have, browsing the web, download Steam, make sure you're I know for some games you actually have to install Punkbuster, so you have to install Punkbuster. Tedious, so you might just want to devote a day to just getting your PC up and running, but after that it's pretty much golden. And let me tell you guys, if your PC runs into a problem, and this is specifically the motherboard usually 9 times out of 10 is the first thing to go in your PC. The reason why I say this is because GPUs and GPUs are only getting better and more advanced, while motherboards are only making marginal improvements. I don't want to get technical here, but in things of like the CPU chokes, the capacitors, and stuff like that, only marginal improvements, while the CPUs and GPUs are always getting stronger, more rigidity. Do I even English? The heat sinks are only getting more better. I'm pretty sure like the new CPUs don't even come with heat sinks. So yeah, I think so. The motherboard's always the first thing to go, and when your motherboard goes, let me tell you, is the hardest thing to diagnose. I promise you, you will think it's your CPU, you'll think it's your RAM, your GPU, your power supply, your I/O, something shorting it out in the case, before you come to the realization that your motherboard is dying. And that is what's happening to my motherboard, which is an ASRock. And let me tell you guys, if you ever buy or building a PC, please stay away from ASRock. They have the worst customer support in the world. Like, honestly, it's like dealing with Ubisoft's customer support. Like, it's just not gonna work. I'm really bashing on Ubisoft this video. Yeah, so that's another factor, is when something's wrong in your PC, it's harder to diagnose what's wrong with it, because in the console, everything's built the same. So if something's wrong with one specific hardware, it's probably going to be a problem with every single console. So it's a lot easier to diagnose and fix with a simple patch. PC, it's a different story. So yeah, but if you can get your PC to work on the first try, and you won't have to worry about technical issues. And I'm not saying that I didn't do it properly, I'm not saying you didn't build your PC properly, just there's a lot of factors in why your PC may not be booting. But that's just a problem. That if something's wrong in your PC, it's usually hard to figure out what is the main cause of that problem, especially even if you haven't added anything new into your system in a long time. And I think the third issue, I don't even know if I mentioned this, but it's just time. I don't know if I mentioned this, but I'm gonna mention it again. If I did mention it, just leave a comment in the comment section. But time. Not everyone has time to devote into building a PC and stuff like that. Not everyone has time, but maybe they have enough time. Actually, I did say that, good, I remember. I think the third issue is graphics. I think when people are building PCs, the only thing they're worrying about is graphics cards, and they're not really thinking about their sound, how their sound is gonna sound, how their processor is gonna be, how much RAM do they need. Is the motherboard stable? I'm gonna pick up the slowest hard drive, aka the cheapest hard drive. SSDs, I hear SSDs aren't worth it because they don't give you any improvements. And I'm just here to tell you that and again, the monitor. I think actually monitor ties into the graphics card, because one day people are picking up monitors. They usually want to get the gaming quote-unquote headphones and gaming monitors. And I just want to tell you guys that the SSD does make a difference. A better CPU does make a difference. More RAM up to a certain point does make a difference. And when I say up to a certain point, I mean 8 gigs of RAM is good, 16 is good, 32 is overkill. Yeah, it's just crazy how people these days just invest. They get Celerons and Celerons. If you guys don't even know what Celerons are like the bottom line of CPUs. They're weaker than I'm pretty sure they're weaker than AMD's what is it? The X860K. Look that up on the internet and you'll know. Just look that up. This week, it's the weakest Intel CPU. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I lost my train of thought. Oh, okay. So yeah, that's what people usually get. They focus on their GPU. I mean, let's get an i3 and get a 980 Ti. It's not gonna work. You're gonna bottleneck the heck out of your system to the point where your CPU may explode. It won't explode. You just won't get the performance that the GPU can deliver. But when you're building a PC, you're gonna want to get say you get an i5. Maybe you want to get a 960 or 970 or 980. I wouldn't recommend getting a 980 Ti or a Titan. It's not like it will bottleneck it by any means. But at that price point, if you're gonna get a 980 Ti or 980 with an i5, I recommend you just get an i7, just because you'll benefit from it. An SSD, I mean, people say that an SSD doesn't really improve performance, but it does improve stability in some sense. If you have 16 gigabytes of RAM, you're not gonna ever run into this problem. But say you have 8 or 4. Windows use something called the paging file, because maybe sometimes you run out of RAM. It hasn't really happened to me because I don't really run intensive applications, but say you do run intensive applications with 8 gigabytes of RAM, so game development, coding, And some people might, well, like, oh, well, why don't you just get 16 gigs of RAM off the bat? Well, not everyone can afford 16 gigs of RAM off the bat. Maybe you'll get it now, and then maybe their next paycheck they'll pick up in a second one. So paging foul is basically when you run out of RAM. This can happen in games too. If you forget to turn off what's it called, Origin in game and Battlefield. This happens a lot, actually. Happens a lot. If you turn that off, and then you have like Skype open, TeamSpeak, and Skype, and all these random, what was it, Razer Game Booster, on all these little add-ons, RAM, it adds up. Sooner or later, you'll get these weird stuttering. You'll be like, oh, why do I have stuttering with my high-end system? I have an i5 and 970, or I have a Fury X, and I'm getting stuttering. And it's because that you ran out of RAM, and your computer is trying its hardest to grab all this information from your hard drive. And we all know how hard drives are. In turn, when they get filled up, they get slower and slower and slower. And then yeah, so an SSD won't improve your performance off the bat, but it will improve stability if you don't have enough RAM. And I'm not saying that, everyone should just run out and buy SSDs, but what I am saying is, you should build your system in moderation. So if you're gonna be getting like something like a 970, it's worth getting, an SSD. Like maybe it's a 120 gig SSD. It doesn't have to be the most high-end SSD. There's SSDs out there for like $50. Maybe you could just put your games on there, and then you have an OS drive, which I do recommend, because then it may later down the road, if you decide to record, it really is beneficial. So I think I covered everything. Yeah, about console gaming versus PC gaming. And I think I might just title this is PC Gaming the Way to Go. There goes my phone. Yep, I'm getting a tweet. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, this is Level 0, and I'll catch you in the next one.